My name is Ofir Drori. I am the director of the Last Great Ape organization, LAGA, and what we do is wildlife law enforcement. LAGA is the first wildlife law enforcement NGO. What we basically do is getting a law that was never applied into application, tracking down big wildlife dealers that are trading in ivory or in apes or in lions, and we track them down with investigations, undercover investigations. We're working with the police in getting them arrested, and we follow up in court their cases until they get prosecuted and most times in prison. Well, who inspired me? Well, a baby chimp that I encountered as I arrived to Cameroon as a photojournalist. And I ended up rescuing this baby chimp, and that came with responsibility. It meant that I became, without choosing really, father and mother to this baby. And I had to stay in Cameroon, and wanted to give fight for the future of his species. And that's how I formed this NGO that is a wildlife law enforcement NGO. Well, what we did is that we used innovation in integrating the fight against corruption into conservation in order to get that law applied. The law was not applied for a decade because of corruption. So we had to find ways to fight corruption to get the law applied. And right now, this wildlife law enforcement is working in Cameroon, it's working in other countries like Congo, Gabon, Central African Republic. What we really want to have is more countries taking this kind of model, this kind of approach. And what we would like to see is a lot of countries working together to get wildlife traffickers behind bars where they belong. Somebody else was nominating me, but I think that, let me talk about, that was not my intention, but let me talk about the value of such an award. The value of such an award is getting more legitimacy for our way of work, which is a bit different than the normal way of work, is to give more legitimacy to fighting corruption inside conservation, to protect endangered species. We hope to use this legitimacy to push more African governments to work with us in partnership and actually fight corruption in the courts, fight corruption in the police forces, and fight to get those dealers behind bars. Well, the award will help financially for my organization, but the importance is far beyond that, because it's never about money. It's about getting the power to actually change things in the ground. And this award gives a lot of legitimacy and credibility to our way of work. This is an approach that was very easy, it was very difficult for us to start with. It's very easy to do more conferences and workshops and educate children. But when it comes to the hard stuff, actually protecting species is conflict. It means fighting for it. It means fighting an enemy that is in front of you, not an easy enemy to fight. That needs not just courage, it needs a lot of backing. And this award gives us this kind of backing that we want to push it further and get more acceptance to our approach. Well, for me, the major problem, although we are fighting wildlife criminals every day, for me the larger problem is not just the wildlife criminals. It's the current trends in conservation. It's where we're focusing ourselves. I think that changing conservation is just as much a challenge as actually getting those big dealers behind bars. 8 years ago, it was clear to me that conservation has to change. We have to move from talking into action, and we need to get back to our root values and connect to this activism that we need to actually make this fight. And I think in the 8 years that passed, it was only strengthening in me in seeing very well what needs to change. So I still think that our enemy is conservation itself. It needs to change. We do what we do not just to protect the specific species in each country. We do what we do because we wanted to show the way that you can do things differently, and we want conservation to move more in this direction. I'm quite certain that in 20 years from now, I'll be doing the same things that I'm doing right now. but we grow, you know, conservation is a starting point for us for activism in much more general way. So the same fights that we have in fighting corruption in conservation, we have for many different issues. Hopefully over the years we will learn better of how to foster local activism, how to engage people in changing the realities in their country, not just in conservation. So hopefully in 20 years from now, we'll be doing things in many more countries in Africa, and we'll be doing many more things than conservation. And hopefully I'll be still doing the same things that I'm doing, but in a maybe more powerful and more effective ways.